I was born and raised in Long Beach, California. To be more specific, the east side of Long Beach, where gang activity was and still prominent today. Although I could never experience the hardships my parents went through, I also went through my own hardships growing up. I was raised by a single mother and older brother. My pops was still around, so I was fortunate enough to see him every other weekend. Long Beach is a very diverse city, a melting pot, but with that comes a lot of racial tension, especially in the areas where I grew up. There were lots of families on Section 8 housing, lots of poverty, high unemployment rates, which ultimately led to drug abuse, drug dealing, robberies, and other gang activities. I used to think shootings and drive-bys was somewhat a normal thing. I don't care what part of Long Beach you're from. If you lived there for some time, shooting and murders wasn't a surprise. I found skateboarding when I was about 10 or 12 years old. During summer days, I remember spending most of the day on the streets with neighborhood friends. No adult supervision, just friends and our skateboards. Most of the time, my mom didn't even know where I was at, didn't talk to each other for 10 hours of the day, and just hoped I'd make it back home when it gets dark. So I can definitely relate to these kids where they had no one to watch after them, no one to seek guidance from, just their friends, taking life one day at a time. I remember one day my friends and I were skating on the corner of a street, Temple Avenue and 11th Street. There was about 10 of us. I remember seeing two slightly older Cambodian guys walk past us. Didn't think anything of it, but then they turned around at the end of the block and walked back a few minutes later. As they got closer, one of them approached me. I thought this dude was going in for a handshake, but then pulled out a knife, put it towards my neck, snatched my necklace, and just walked away unfazed. I was literally stuck in shock, but something inside me told me to just let it be. I was about 12 years old and experienced my first robbery. After that day, I knew this gang stuff was real, that anything can happen on the streets, and could happen to anyone. One day I got a direct message on Instagram from this dude talking about how he wanted to open up a community center. I get hundreds of messages about helping people, giving back, donating, etc. So I didn't think much of it, but I did archive it so I can get back to him when I had more time on my hands. But he was very consistent. He started shooting me photos of the actual building, all ran down, told me he wanted to buy it, and then he actually bought it. To me, that was a major move. I was like, damn, this dude is really about making this shit happen, which means he really cares for the kids. So then we started talking ever since. I remember Dylan telling me a story about one particular student who was sent to detention because he refused to take his LVFT snapback off, which in my head was pretty cool. As Dylan told me more about this particular kid, my heart sank. This dude was a heavier kid at his age, quiet, probably picked on by a lot of other students. When he was just a little boy, he was in a car wreck with his sister and mother, whom which both were killed. He was the only survivor, and then 2 years later, his dad committed suicide. So I felt for this kid, but that's the kind of reality these kids are living in. Some had never even met their parents, struggle to put food on the table, and the list goes on. By this time, I still really didn't know much about Oklahoma, nor about the town of Oaxaca at all. I just knew that kids growing up there didn't have much. You know, I always think about how I'm going to raise my child. Now that I have a baby daughter myself, Reese, that thought runs through my head 24/7. You know, I want to give her the world, yet I want her to experience some struggles in life. When she's older, I definitely want to share my personal story growing up with little to nothing, and share this story of the project to show that no matter where you are, where you come from, if you have the opportunity to help others, do it, because you never know how much it may change someone else's life. Sometimes the smallest gestures are pivotal in someone's life, especially a child's. I honestly didn't know what to expect going into Oklahoma. Helping Dylan and the kids out was all personal to me. In closing, I know this project barely scrapes the surface of what these kids really go through, but now that you made it this far to the end, I hope you will too continue to give back whenever and however you can.